need bees to pollinate. All right, I'm just winding you up, David Bellamy.
Hiya.
Oh, hi.
Can I get a car into town, please? I'm having trouble with my Uber.
Yeah, no problem. You see, higher technology is all very well in it, but when push comes to shove, sometimes the old-fashioned way is the best way.
Can't argue with that. Same story when I lost my phone last month. Managed to find an old-fashioned phone box, which was a godsend.
Well, that's why Streetcars likes to retain our faithful home base right here.
Quite an overwhelming smell of urine, though.
Sorry?
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
Hello and welcome to episode 220 of The Talk of the Street, an unofficial Coronation Street catch-up podcast that thinks if you're determined to show characters play football on Coronation Street, the best way of showing characters play football on Coronation Street is by not showing us their feet, the ball, or the winning goal. I'm Gavin.
And I want to state for the record that I did not spit on Chris Pine.
Yes, you did.
But I'd like to.
Oh. Well, I think it was approximately 6 seconds into the 220th episode. I think we went too far.
The very best Chris. Of the Chris's.
Right.
It goes Pine, Evans, Helmsworth, Pratt.
Which Evans?
Chris.
I know three of them.
Chris Evans.
Yeah, but which Chris Evans?
Captain America.
All right. Not TGI Friday. Or Richard Herring's producer. Chris Evans, not that one.
No.
Okay.
No.
Just felt
Of
it
the
needed,
hot Chris's.
I just felt it needed some clarification. How are you tonight?
Well, I'm a bit shook up.
I think we're all a little bit shook up.
We're all shook up.
I mean, it's a Wednesday night to start with
Right.
that we're recording this, because
Right.
on Friday we're going to see Echo and His Bunny Men
Yes, we will.
live in Detroit, the Fillmore.
At the Fillmore. The historic
The world famous
Fillmore
the Fillmore.
Theater. Yes.
Mhm.
Didn't we see... Is that where we saw...
No,
Okay.
because I've never been.
I thought that's where we saw Toad.
No, we saw Toad in Royal Oak.
Oh. Yes. And then we saw just what's his name?
Glenn Phillips
Yes.
in Kalamazoo.
And Kalamazoo at Bell's.
Mhm.
Yeah. I do remember we walked by the Fillmore
It's right across from
Right.
Tiger Stadium.
and there was like a tribute there was a tribute to Aretha Franklin because she had just died
Right.
when we were there going to Royal Oak. Yeah.
So
that'll
we're
be fun.
recording this out of sync. We're only going to be talking about Monday and Wednesdays.
Right.
So theoretically we should be in and out fairly quick with this.
One would hope.
That's what she said. Who knows?
She never says that.
But it's been a strange old night.
On Wednesdays we go to trivia, and at our local restaurant in town, and this Wednesday happened to be the Wednesday that the bartender went full.
I'm going to say crazy mental.
Oh, I was gonna say Dog Day Afternoon,
I wouldn't say full Dog Day Afternoon, but
close.
close, right? Yeah.
So we had 3 different kind of police officers in front of the restaurant while we were trying to pay attention to trivia, and it didn't work out too much. We had a city cop, a county cop, and a state cop,
We just needed the feds and the army, and then we had the full set.
and the UN, and the
It's kind of left me a little
United
shaken,
Federation
though,
of Planets.
seeing an actual brawl in a bar.
Right.
I've
It's
never seen
been
a bar brawl before.
Really?
I don't think so.
I thought you'd been in fights.
Here?
No. Back in Scotland.
And fights?
Yeah.
Plural?
Yeah.
No, I've been hit. I wouldn't go as far as to call them fights. Fights suggest
That you
the
hit
participation of at least 2 of the participants. I've been assaulted before, but I don't really get in fights. I managed to talk my way out of them, would you believe?
Is that before or after they hit you?
Let's say before. Yes, it's been a strange old night.
Yes. So we're a little off kilter, although I had that Chris Pine joke lined up already.
Well, I'm glad you clarified, because I'm sure everyone's wondering. I mean, if they'd seen a fight, how could you possibly have a Chris Pine joke at the ready? There you go, listeners. Light and upon magic.
Ah, God. The only way we could be experiencing more drama is if we were in Venice ourselves at the film festival.
That's an interesting segue.
Well, that's where Harry Styles spit on Chris Pine, allegedly.
Oh, I think I saw a meme where somebody threw a goat at somebody. Is that the same thing?
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And Den has already, put Billy in there somehow.
Of course she has. I'd be disappointed if she hadn't. I'm itching to move on from this.
Yes.
So
yes.
I'm going to ask you if you would like to preamble, my dear.
Yes, please.
Then give us some of that.
Pugnacious Corrie news.
That'll do.
In what's being described as a Marvel level stunt, speaking of Chris's, Corrie is going all Hollywood by adding a volume wall technology for Kelly's last storyline, and perhaps if it goes well, they'll use it again. Welcome to the CSU, Gav.
The Coronation Street Cinematic Universe?
Well,
The
that would be
CSCU.
that would be the CSCU, and
Right.
that just seemed like, because the DCEU is annoying to say. So
How about the Coronation Universe New Technology?
they're really talking this up. They're talking it up, I would say, a little too much. How do you feel about this?
I think they're quite proud of it. And sure, go for it. What I've seen of a volume wall looks like it's one of those big semicircular screens, essentially, that's on a stage or whatever that
Right,
gives the
yeah.
impression that you're...
It's a concave green wall, essentially.
Right. So
Do you think CGI sort of technology has a place within soap operas?
I would like to know what Vera Duckworth would say about something like this. Yeah, I don't know. You move with the times, I guess, a little bit. I
Yeah.
would like to see it overused, because things like guns and things like
Right.
stunts, and we bristle a little bit at fancy sound effects.
Right.
So
yeah.
to use massive green screens kind of
Right.
feels like it's going against the essence of the show.
Right. And how many stunt people are we putting out of work by using them and other people?
Yeah.
And-
I'm not sure how much that weighs for me.
Well, and it's just, I remember the Star Wars prequels
I'm trying to forget them.
where it got to a point by the end of them that they were just kind of CGI and everything, including like chairs and tables in the
Things that
background.
don't need to CGI, yeah.
Right, absolutely. And I'm just worried that in order to make this cost efficient, that they're
It's-
going to be using it for more things that they don't need to use it for.
These seem to be nighttime scenes, though, and typically the nighttime scenes look like regular scenes through a blue filter. So if it looks a little bit better than that, I think I'm maybe for it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if there's a practical way to shoot something without having to rely on
Yeah.
CG, then they should probably do it that
That's
way.
always the best way to do it, whether it's a Marvel movie or Coronation Street.
Or a Friday the 13th movie. Always go with the practical.
Always go with
Usually.
practical effects. I think a lot of
And
people
boobs.
are kind of burned out by boobs and
Right.
and CGI and stuff. So we'll see how it goes. For the record, there are other movies and television shows that use a volume wall, not just Marvel. I just thought I would say that, and there are American soap operas that have used them. I just wanted to
Yeah, I
put that
don't
out.
think Coronation Street's claiming to be
Oh, he
at
is.
the cutting edge here. Are they?
Ian says that he thinks that they're the first soap opera to ever use a volume wall.
Oh,
I don't think he's right.
first British.
No, he says any.
I'll try to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm determined to give him the benefit of the doubt.
He also said something about American savannas. So he's just very excited, and it's very sweet that he's very excited, and I
Right.
hope it works out well for them. I personally am a little nervous about it, but that's just me. We got to meet Mrs. Fake Canadian this week. But did you know that she was once the wife of another Corrie conman?
Yes.
Yes. Helene Maxsoud played Mrs. Duncan Radford before she played Mrs. Stephen Reed.
Now, can you remember what was wrong with May? She had a
She was faking
condition,
a
didn't she?
disease.
Was she faking it?
She was supposed to be dead, but she was living in Costa Rica
Costa
instead.
Rica, that's right.
Costa Rica raises its head once again on this television show. She was supposed to be dead, but she was in Costa Rica.
I would say 2 mentions of Costa Rica and 2 separate storylines in 4 years
Right, because that was 2019.
is probably too many.
Right. There are other tropical islands one can go to.
Wow. But she is Canadian.
Is she? I knew she wasn't British.
Yeah, she's Canadian.
Yeah. Actual Canadian, not Ohio Canadian.
Bleeds maple syrup Canadian.
Not, my parents swam across Lake Erie to give birth to me and then they swam back.
No.
Canadian.
No, proper Canadian.
Proper Canadian.
Proper Canadian bacon.
Yes. She bleeds poutine.
Oh, they stick with maple syrup.
And finally, Mazel Tov to former Corrie star Richard Fleischman and his future bride, Celine Schoenmaker. The former Craig Harris proposed last week wearing a cowboy hat on an African safari.
Just wearing a cowboy hat?
Well, he was wearing clothes as well.
Okay.
No details on which country in Africa it was.
Costa Rica, probably.
It's like pet peeve 2 or 3 of the night for me already. And no black eyeliner to be seen. Which is a joke about him. Craig Harris was
Always better when you explain the jokes. Always better.
a goth kid.
Yeah, no. We're
Well,
doing a Coronation Street podcast.
I know. I expected you to laugh.
Oh, sorry, I reserved that for things that are funny. I'm sorry.
Oh, ouch. And that's Corrie News.
That's Corrie News.
Someone sleeping on the couch tonight.
Our mailbag. I'd like to point out that we've picked up another 5-star review last week on the iTunes
Woohoo!
that I didn't write, with the title, Honestly, Just Amazing.
Aw!
This is from Gail Platt Loves Olives, which is a name that I absolutely adore. My firstborn is going to be called Gail Platt Loves Olives. I'm leaving that a little late.
It's a little late for that.
They're right. I like to listen to podcasts as I'm going about my day, and this one is by far my favourite. Been able to hear a catch-up of this week's Coronation Street combined with the hilarious banter. And they haven't put hilarious banter in inverted commas, so I think they mean it. It's just fab. Great work, guys. Thank you so much, Gail Platt Loves Olives. That's a lovely,
How lovely is that?
a lovely comment to receive.
Yes, we should be getting more of those because people claim to love us.
I encourage more people to write 5-star reviews with lovely things.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
That's very nice.
All about the validation.
Yes, and the olives.
And now we'll podcast for coffee. Thanks to Jackie for our coffees this week.
Thank you, Jackie.
Jackie writes, still loving the podcast. That cost of living crisis going on means I haven't been able to donate for a while. But here you go. Love you both from Jackie.
Aw.
Thank you so much, Jackie. And honestly, I appreciate this whole cost of living thing. I know that we are quite a few miles from the UK,
Yes.
but I think it's biting everybody, right?
Yes,
So-
absolutely.
So
We've seen those ridiculous articles being published in UK periodicals about why actually it's a good thing to skip a few meals every once in a while and turn your air conditioning off, etc.
well, and it's biting over here as well. Like the cost of stuff is gone up. So I think this goes without saying, but there are more important things than buying us coffee.
Right. Although we do appreciate it.
We absolutely appreciate it.
Yes.
And I don't want anyone to think that we don't, but priorities and that, right?
Right. Yeah.
But thank you very much, Jackie. And if, after doing my best to put you off, if you think that this podcast of ours is worth any more than the time it takes to listen to it, you can buy us next week's coffee by going to ko-fi.com. That's ko-fi.com/the talk of the street. And we will be very appreciative, won't we, Helen?
Yes, we will.
And now, this.
Well, welcome.
Oh, welcome to Last Year Tonight with me, John Oliver. Just enough time to quickly talk about Massive Cactus.
They're not talking about what's in your pants, are they?
They definitely aren't talking about what's in my pants.
That's where you're supposed to say, that's right.
I just couldn't carry that off.
You have stood by a massive cactus this summer.
I'm pragmatic if nothing else. Yes, I have.
Yes. And it wasn't the one in your pants.
And it wasn't the one in my pants. Although I have been told that I'm prickly.
This is true.
Or just a prick. I'm not sure which.
Both.
That's right. This was Emma, worried that Curtis's heart had packed in loading the moving van with a massive cactus. Remember, Curtis had a massive cactus?
Oh, that's right.
An actual massive cactus.
Right.
I was Gavin and you were fucking furious.
Why was I furious?
No idea.
I'm trying to remember what was going on this time last year.
Well, you had some Kim's Convenience still to watch.
Oh, that's right, I did.
The kids were back,
Right?
but we never see them.
No.
And
That's
I'd got
still
done
true.
for speeding on the Ohio Turnpike coming home from Connecticut. You're welcome. But you were furious. I think you were just generally in a bad mood or something.
Right.
Hope returns to school after trying to kill Alina, and when Fizz gets a call from the school to inform her about an incident, I think we're all well within our rights to jump to some conclusions here. It's moving in day for Emma and Curtis, except neither Curtis nor his massive cactus are anywhere to be found. As Eileen discovers the truth about Phelan's ashes, we enter into the 19th phase of her wanting nothing to do with Todd or the Undertaker. The trial reaches... Oh, this is why you were furious.
Oh,
The trial
yeah.
reaches its conclusion as Abby and Imran desperately try to find that key piece of evidence to prove ITV Corrie guilty and Kelly innocent. Simon's girlfriend hopes take a hit. Tyrone is outsmarted by a 10-year-old.
Poor Simon.
And Stefan's panic button works. Our moment of the week was Roy and Dev talking about their daughters, and our boring moment of the week was Alina looking at pictures of Romania. And that was Coronation Street and the talk of the street this time last year. Yes, you were really annoyed at the way that the trial went
Yes.
last year. I think
Yeah.
we all were.
Yes. So in this show, we've had a Steve. We currently have a Steven, and we've had a Stefan.
Mm-hmm.
And not like the good Bill Hader version of Stefan from Saturday Night Live, a show you
are
don't watch.
Hitting the references left and right tonight. Remember, we saw a crime be committed earlier tonight. That's
We
why
did.
we're a little off.
We did. And also the waitress, well, actually the bartender, the one who got in a fight immediately afterwards, accidentally gave me a regular Heineken instead of a Heineken Zero. Maybe that's why she was so angry with herself that she just went nuts.
Right.
Or maybe that was a precursor to her going nuts.
Yeah. Who drinks Heineken Zero?
We do.
We do. It's actually pretty good.
It's nice that the Rovers now carries it. So
Yeah.
we would have something to drink there.
On draft as well.
Yeah.
You can get a pint of it.
Lovely.
Shall we dive in, my dear?
Yes, please.
Our first storyline tonight is Postman Sam. And I think this is Pygmalion.
No.
No?
Pygmalion is My Fair Lady.
Yeah. For somebody's pretending to be something that they're not.
No.
No?
No, Pygmalion is where the rich professor
Oh,
takes
yep, I've got
the
it.
poor
I've got it.
flower seller and tries to make a lady out of her.
I'm determined to get...
Just you wait. Henry Higgins, just you wait.
I'm determined to get a Pygmalion story at this week's Coronation Street. This isn't the one.
No.
On Monday, Sam and Hope are heading to school. Sam's got his knickers in a knot about a presentation that they're having to do. Hope, though, is cool as a cucumber.
As always.
She's just going to riff it on the night. He's going to do his presentation on chess.
Yes.
And he's expecting not to get a kicking.
She's doing it on the computer game that she plays with the mysterious bulldog person.
Mad Dog.
Mad Dog.
Is it Mad Dog? I think I called it something else.
I think it is Mad Dog. Mad Dog 2020.
Right.
Oh, God, remember that.
Vaguely. Drunk from
I
the feet up.
remember drinking that in cornfields growing up. Well, not growing up, but in high school.
Yeah.
Were you drinking it in cornfields?
I drank it at work.
Does anybody that you worked with at the time listen to this? Could you still get in trouble for this? Because technically you still work for the same company?
No, it's not the same company anymore. No, it was the Christmas party thing.
Oh, okay.
That's
So,
my,
like when I was drinking vodka with Russians, you were drinking Mad Dog at work.
that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. He doesn't get a kicking, but as they're walking home, some bigger-looking boys approach him in hope, and they pretend to be dead interested in his presentation. Sam is shite at reading body language and sarcasm, so offers to teach the boys chess later at Roy's.
How sweet is that kid? He's so sweet.
Sounds great, says the leader of the bigger boys, except he says it like this. Well, that sounds great.
And then rolls his eyes at the other kid.
Sam has set up just the 2 chessboards in Roy's, thinking that will cope with demand, but then Hope comes in and tells Sam that the boys are playing footy at the Red Wreck and they won't be coming to his chess tutorial after all. So sadly, Sam packs away his stuff, moaning that he never fits in anywhere. Bernie tries to lighten the mood by talking about a time when she was at a rave at the age of 14 and eckied out of her tits.
Right, yeah. That's a great story to tell the kids, Bernie.
Good time, she says. And then there's a little scene or a little moment where Sam says, "What's a rave?" And Hope says, "I've no idea."
Which is good. It's good that they don't know what one of those is.
Hope says, "Chess and astrology aren't going to get you anywhere, but stick with me, kid. I'll make you cool." So on Wednesday at the bus stop...
So this is a Wicked reference then. When Glenda the Good Witch says to Elphaba that she's going to make her...
Popular.
Yes.
Popular.
Good job.
Thank you. On Wednesday, at the bus stop, Hope tells Sam that the way to become popular is to play video games. So Sam invites Liam and Jack to a challenge at the flat later.
Yes, because Liam and Jack are very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, one has asthma and one is missing a leg. Which I guess makes you cool.
Maybe.
The boys are at the flat. Sam isn't playing and is instead writing his letters. Nick and Hope pressure him into playing, but he's shite, and Jack, who is playing computer games with one hand and shaving with the other, is still able to wipe the floor with him. "This game's stupid," says Sam, and Liam and Jack are not impressed by this.
No.
So Liam and Jack are pricks to Sam about football and how he knows nothing about it.
Right, and they
reckon-
say you probably play Minecraft. Like Minecraft isn't cool.
I don't think Minecraft is cool anymore, is it?
Minecraft will always be cool.
They reckon that Jelena would be better at football games than him, and then they give him a hard time about writing shite letters to her. Nick is actually in the room during all this, and he
Yeah.
watches all that happen, and the thing that he's bothered about is the contents of the letter,
Right.
not the fact that his son is being bullied right in front of him.
By his own friends.
Sam's friends have left later, and Nick wants to get a takeaway. Sam points out that all they do is eat takeaway, and it's upsetting his ablutions in the morning. He wants to post his letter because it's romantic. Nick suggests writing "swalk" on the back, and then bursts into tears for no reason.
Right. And Sam says, "Gag me with a spoon."
Right. Oh,
Have you ever written "swalk" on the back of a letter?
I think so. On a Valentine's card when I was a kid, probably, yeah.
I don't-
Sealed with a loving kiss.
See, I don't think we ever did the loving. It was just sealed with a kiss.
Swack.
Swalk.
Well, if there's no L in it, it's more swack, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe.
By maybe you mean definitely, right?
Yeah. Yeah, like when I went away to camp, my mom would write "sealed with a kiss" on the back of letters.
Is that creepy?
No.
Huh.
What, your parents never kissed and hugged you?
They never sealed my letters with a kiss and then bragged about it. No.
So they didn't love you.
I don't think my dad did. No.
But that's for another podcast.
Should I be lying down for this? I'm kidding. I'm sure my dad was quite fond of me.
What was that thing?
In small doses.
What was that ridiculous thing your mother criticized you for when you were 5?
Oh, I couldn't spell my last name. And it was before I was 5. I'm sure it was one of my first memories when I wrote down my name.
Right, and you were so
And
proud.
showed her, Mum, look, I've written my name. And she said, there's 2 O's in Broom. Thanks, Mum.
That's how she showed love, though.
And you wonder why I turned out like this. Anyway,
Hey,
what'd you think of this Pygmalion story then?
it's not Pygmalion. It's Wicked. We've already established that.
So there was a kind of mystery last week about Sam and his letters, but
Right.
it seems that this is who he's writing to.
I don't think
And
that's who he's writing to.
Or he's pitching the sale of this as
Right.
the reason why I thought, because it's
Right.
romantic, because it's a
Right.
nice thing to do.
Right. But he might be
The
lying.
forgotten art
although
of
Sam
letter
doesn't
writing.
lie. Not well.
Who's he writing to then?
I don't know. Why is Hope so invested in Sam being popular? Why can't she just be friends with him the way he is? I thought that's why she liked him, because he was a little weird. I don't like Hope trying to change people. That's not cool.
No. That's Hope, though. I think she sees him as a bit of a project, doesn't she?
Yeah. I liked it better when they were just, talking on their walkie-talkies, and she was the only one he would talk to. And she was the only one who seemed to like her and not be afraid of her.
They are an unlikely friendship.
Yeah. It's a good friendship, though. Mostly.
Yeah, I like the two of them together. I think they're quite funny. And I think the little bit of banter in the cafe was really good. And I think Bernie was hilarious, telling completely inappropriate stories to them.
Do you think this is a sort of storyline that is appropriate for a soap opera? A
What?
story about middle schoolers getting bullied at school?
I don't know if that's what it's about. Because it looked like that's what was going to be on Monday. It's like, here's these big kids
Right.
that are going to either steal the board or steal
Right.
the pieces or somehow beat Sam up. But they just didn't bother turning up.
Right. Which is mean.
It's mean, but it's preferable to physical assault.
Right.
As we saw tonight.
Yes. Yes.
You would think that if it looked all the world to me that this is going to be a bullying story.
Right.
But I don't think that the show is treating Liam and Jack's reaction to Sam
Well, no, not
as
Liam
bullying.
and Jack. Yeah, not Liam and Jack.
Even
but,
though they were kind of shits to him in his
right,
own house.
but you know what? He was kind of shitty to them too, saying the game was stupid. I mean, that's not a very gracious thing to say either. But they did seem to come to an appreciation of the fact that he did know about actual football.
He knew Marcus Rashford and he knew David Beckham
Right.
because he manages to bend it like himself
Right.
or something.
Yes. Bend it like Beckham. It's interesting to me that they're kind of giving a storyline to this age group of kids that's not really involving the grown-ups too much. And this is like the first time it feels like that's happened, where there's a storyline for this age group with very, very little, because all the other stories are kind of more grown up adjacent, like Sam's storyline. The reason why he lost his voice is because his mom died because of, Harvey
Right.
and stuff. So there was a storyline about Sam, but it was because of stuff that grown-ups were doing. And while I appreciate like the high schooler and the 18-year-olds getting their own storylines and stuff now and becoming full-fledged characters, it's interesting that they're going a step even further down.
Yeah, and I think these two can carry that off. So.
Yes, absolutely.
Have I mentioned that we're not covering Friday in this episode?
Yes.
Have I? We're not covering Friday in this episode.
Well, I think it will be obvious when people are listening to it on Thursday that we are not
That's right.
time travelers and we have not watched Friday.
Well,
If the show would like to send us the episodes in advance so that we
this
can
is
be
why
prepared
the
for
box
Friday.
setting would have been an ideal
Right.
thing
For
to
us.
have. Right.
Yeah.
Right, so who knows what's going to happen in that on Friday.
Friday.
If anything, that doesn't feel like it's one of those burning A-line stories that, this isn't the main story of anything, I don't think.
Not right now.
Moving on, our next story is Canadians behaving badly.
Woohoo.
On Monday, Daisy's back.
Yay.
I was actually pleased to see Daisy back.
Good. I'm glad.
So what a progression that's been for this
Right,
character.
because you used to
from
hate her.
absolutely detested her. She was
Right.
a terrible character.
Whereas I always said that she was good, and I was right.
I don't think she was good as she was. I think she's good now as she is.
Right.
So I don't think you were right at the time. I think you're right now, and I think I'm right now as well. She's a better. They've toned her down a little bit. She's not quite as nasty as she was. Anyway, she's back from her hen do and is to the back with Leo and Jenny, and she asks if she missed anything. Well, says Jenny, I'm engaged and moving to Canada, y'all. But apart from that, same old, same old.
Yes.
Leo mentions the bumps along the way that they've experienced, and Jenny is quick to point out that they'd also split up for a day.
Right.
Which is like her trying to justify
We were
what happened.
on a break!
Thank you very much. Meanwhile, Sarah bumps into Stephen outside Roy's Rolls and tells him about a meeting that she has today with some potential investors who specialise in female entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Keep me updated on that, says Stephen.
Not a female.
No. Back in the Rovers, Jenny can't keep it in any longer, and she spills the beans
not like that.
to Jenny about winching the face of Stephen when she and Leo were split up.
And Daisy makes a face of horror.
After Daisy has stopped throwing up, she advises that Jenny keeps her mouth shut about this and never tells Leo. They were on a break, so forget it. Later, she bumps into Stephen, and it's awkward until Stephen tells her that if she's worried about him blabbing, she needn't be concerned. His Canadian lips are sealed. Jenny wanders away, but then a passing car toots its horn at Stephen. Hiya, stranger, or should I say hubby, which is totally something that somebody would say.
Right.
Hi, stranger, or should I mean hubby?
Right, yeah. She's pissed, though, so I get it.
And it's Duncan's sick wife May from a few years ago, only this time she's speaking in Canadian.
Yes, she should.
This is Gabrielle. I don't think May spoke the last time, did she? We saw her.
I think she spoke.
I can't remember. I'd need to go and check.
But she was speaking in Costa Rican.
Right. Ay caramba. It didn't take much to track Stephen down because, of course, it didn't.
Right, yeah. It's the street that your sister lives on.
Right. But she tells him that he owes her 200,000 euros from the money that he embezzled out of her company, she says,
right.
not their company.
Right.
Her company. And she wants it back pronto or she's heading to the cops. Capiche? Stephen capiches.
All in his pants. And has to go and buy another one of Imran's dead suits.
Not another one. Imran's wife runs. Not bad. Not bad at all.
I don't think Imran wears wife fronts.
And now, poof, as that little cloud of perfection just dissipates.
Boxer briefs like you, which are much sexier.
This exchange puts Stephen in a desperate mood, so when he bumps into Sarah and Nina's Rolls, who is preparing for a meeting with the sexist entrepreneurs...
They're not sexist!
He suggests that she puts his name down as a partner if she thinks it'll bolster her application.
Right, like it will give her a better image if a man's attached to it.
Not just a man, a white man.
Who's her uncle. Yeah, that's going to look really good with the, hoping to promote female entrepreneurs.
So
yeah.
This is a point, right?
And the fact that she agrees to this.
Yes, she thinks it's a great idea.
Yeah, why are they dumbing her down so much?
They arrange to meet in the pub after, which they do, where Sarah wastes no time in telling him that they won't be investing. She has a lack of experience, plus it was for female entrepreneurs who don't have Canadian uncles. She promises not to give up, though, but it seemed that Stephen was trying to suddenly get in on this.
Right.
In the hope of getting some money out of this.
Right, yeah,
this
which
whole
is
thing,
why
right?
he's been encouraging her in the first place.
Right. But this puts Stephen further into a bad mood, so when Leo comes over to chew the cud about his business and potential for some deals on the Canadian side, Stephen is less than gracious. Jenny senses this and shushes Leo away, allowing Stephen to kinda, but not really, threaten Jenny, telling her to keep her baying Labrador away from him because seeing him makes him feel guilty. And the thing he doesn't say after that is that who knows what he might say if he feels too guilty. And I think it's at this point that we start to think that maybe there's a little bit of blackmail going to happen at some point in the storyline.
I see Leo more as a Great Dane. He's a bit bigger than a Labrador.
He's an Afghan hound every day of the week.
Yeah, I can see that.
Mm-hmm.
He's got the chin of a Great Dane, though.
Jenny's a red setter.
What we would call an Irish setter here in America, I believe.
That's not an Irish wolfhound, though, because she's not an Irish wolfhound.
No, an Irish setter with long flowing red hair.
And Stephen is a Canadian pug.
No, don't say such things about pugs who are Johnny was a pug.
You think?
Stephen is a rat. He's not even, I wouldn't even give him the name of dog.
No, I'm kidding. He's got lovely cheekbones. He does. Very pronounced. On Wednesday, in the factory, Stephen, who doesn't work at the factory, is interrupted by Sarah from looking at some of the legal documentation that he's brought in for some reason. But it looks like he's trying to get power of attorney over Audrey's stuff. This isn't the stuff that Adam drew up, is it?
No, this looks different.
That
wasn't power of attorney. That was
yeah,
controlling her trust.
This is off the
internet. He had to print it off.
Because this costs $79 to file or whatever.
Right. Yeah, and didn't he asked to use the factory, and then Sarah says something to Carla about making Stephen a set of keys, and Carla says, yeah, all right.
Oh, no, that happens later.
Yeah, but still.
And I don't think it's make him a set of keys. It was to give him keys to get access to the factory. But we're getting ahead of ourselves here, Helen. There may have been some mention here of the time that Nick and David tried to rip Audrey out of her money to set up the barbers, but I kind of missed that. And I was in a hurry trying to type all this up. So that might have happened. In the hair salon, Stephen has a place to himself and has found some paperwork with Audrey's signature that looks like it was written with her foot. Stephen practices forging it when his wife calls, and he tells her that he has a foolproof way to get her money back when Audrey wanders in, wanting to know what he's talking about.
Right.
Flustered, he says it was just work banter and he was just catching up on paperwork, and he changes the subject to David and Nick ripping her off. She doesn't want to talk about that, but confirms that he is the only person that she trusts right now.
Yikes.
So yeah, in the Rovers, he claims to have forgotten his briefcase or something like that, so he asks for the key and Carla says sure. So he goes back to the factory and it looks like he's about to feed some power of attorney documentation, paper-clipped no less,
right,
into a shredder.
Right. And I was shouting, you can't put a paperclip through that.
Right.
No, but...
I don't think it does, though.
No, but yeah, when, he asks for the keys to go get his briefcase, and then Sarah says to Carla, we should really make him a set of keys.
Oh, that happened?
Yes.
Oof.
And Carla says, yeah, all right. And I'm like, what's going on here? What Twilight Zone episode have I stumbled into here?
A very poor one.
I think Carla was very flustered because of stuff that was happening in other storylines this week. Yeah. So she was being a little bit more easygoing with people. And also maybe because of the whole silk thing.
So Gabrielle's back and she's in a car, and I think the same car. One would hope that that's a rental car, right?
Yes.
She's not bought a car.
No.
She doesn't live in the UK.
No.
She lives in Milan.
One would imagine.
Stephen promises to get her money, telling her that he's going to borrow it from his mum. Robbing Peter to pay Paul, says his wife, or rather, robbing mum to pay your missus. And she agrees to accept £200 less than she's owed so Stephen can go and buy himself a decent fucking suit. There's nothing wrong with that suit.
There's nothing wrong with that suit. This is the second person who's complained about this suit.
Yeah,
and
we're supposed to look at that suit and think, what a terrible
suit. And the first one to mock it was David, of all people, who I don't think we've ever seen in a suit.
Yeah, I think I trust Gabrielle's opinion on it, though. She seems to know what she's talking about.
Right, but maybe not, because she seems to think he could get a Gucci suit for $200.
No, she said you won't get a Gucci suit for it. Or you won't get a Prada, but you're not quite the devil yet. Was the devil wears Prada joke.
Wow.
Yeah, and we all laughed like the penguin.
That's as far as we get. Only way to laugh.
That's as far as we get with that one this week. So Stephen's desperation from last week's kind of boiling over into this week as he's...
Yeah, as his wife shows up.
Mm-hmm.
She hasn't confronted him about that credit card yet, though.
No.
Does she know about that yet?
I'm curious about the fact that it's her company, not their company, because we're led to believe that he's a successful businessman.
Right, but we know he's not because he's broke.
Mm-hmm.
So is it from her company that he got that silk from?
I don't think so. I think it was a UK-based company, wasn't it? Because it arrived that day.
Yeah.
So it can't be Canadian.
Or Italian.
No. Not after Brexit. I think we've been down this road before.
Right, yes. Especially not during the Venice Film Festival.
particularly not during that. Yeah, that's an awful lot of money. So what's happened to that money?
Right, because he doesn't have it anymore.
200,000.
Yeah.
Wasn't Nick in the hole for 70? Because this is a Nick storyline
Right,
from
yeah.
a few years ago. Playing
yes.
out again.
Right.
Secretly married. I think Script to Scene had a little list of
Right,
things.
yeah,
that
of all the things
tick
that
them off. That,
it's the exact same storyline.
yeah. Except in Canadian.
Yikes. Right, yeah. And Stephen is not as likable as Nick. Even at the time.
Nick at that time was a bit of a cad, wasn't he? He was a bit of a bounder.
He was, but he was a likable...
Yeah, he was likeable because he was trying to get back into Leanne's pants at that point.
Right, yes. He came back because Leanne almost died.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of sweet. On top of the embezzling your grandma.
Right. So he was ripping off his wife and then ended up trying to rip off his granny.
Right.
Nick is a piece of shit, right?
All for the love of Leanne.
They're each other's lobster.
They are each other's lobster. We've established this.
Yeah, I liked Gabrielle, though. I'm glad that she came into the show. It was good to have that little bit of uncertainty.
Right.
But then it was nice to see Duncan's May again.
Right.
And she's...
Apparently she's on Bridgerton as well. I haven't watched the second season.
I'm sure I've seen her in other things. She kind of reminds me of the mother from How I Met Your Mother a little bit.
Yeah, but she's not.
No, she's not. But she reminds me of her a little bit. Yeah, I've seen her in some other things as well. She's very good. It's good to have her back in it.
Yeah.
We're getting to the point where something has to happen here.
Right, yeah.
I do think he's going to start blackmailing Jenny. Because the opportunity is there. Why wouldn't
Right. Is the Rovers... Could he get 200K out of the Rovers, though?
That secret's not worth 200,000.
No, it's not.
I would say that secret's worth £1,000. I will pay you £1,000 to stay quiet about this.
Yeah,
And that's the top end of that.
And that's just a drop in his bucket.
Right.
So, it feels like he's going to swindle Sarah somehow. That Sarah's going to get like a loan to start her business that still doesn't... I'm still not quite sure exactly what it's supposed to be.
Different knickers.
Right. Which is... I don't know.
Although the female entrepreneurs thought it was a great idea, that was the lack of experience that concerned them more than a problem with the idea itself. Or so Sarah said.
It's hilarious because, in this past week, I watched, Inventing Anna and The Dropout, where young blonde women were able to, in real life, hoodwink and steal one over on lots of people in order to build their businesses. Anna Delvey wasn't quite so successful as Elizabeth Holmes, obviously, because she had a German accent and we're very xenophobic here in America. But it's just, it feels like Sarah should be able to work her magic wearing that leather skirt that you like so much with the right...
Where do I sign?
With the right money man.
Mm-hmm. I think she should be able to convince Carla. If it's a good idea, Carla will be all over it.
Carla has no money.
Carla's about making money, though.
Right, yeah, but they don't have them. Carla told her, look, I'd love to do this, but we can't right now because we're not making enough money right now. It's a slow time in the underwear business because
everyone's going commando.
Because people are still in lockdown and wearing their jammies all the time. They don't need fancy underwear.
This is different knickers, though.
Or
Carla.
bras.
Different knickers. Oh, well, we shall see.
We shall see.
Moving on, our next story tonight is Dramatic Amateurs. On Monday, Ken is in Dev's splashing out on a bottle of wine, but not like that. In comes Mary to chat about her preparations ahead of tomorrow's auditions. Mary and Ken try to talk Evelyn into the role of the neighbour. Mary thinks Ken will be a super anti-hero. Ken goes off to get wired into that Vino, which she is sharing with Wendy as it rehearsed for the audition. Ken isn't too impressed with the script because he's a pompous twat.
Right.
But he and Wendy go ahead and read their scene, which has them declaring their love for each other. And obviously, Tracy walks in on this,
Right.
overhears Wendy, and calls her a fucking slag.
Right, yeah. I was a bit confused at first because I thought Mary was part of the production team for this play.
So did I. And I started...
Why is she auditioning for something that she was trying to get so many people to, and was doing the list for auditions? This feels like, you know, a vested interest in something that maybe...
I lost a bit of interest when I realised that this wasn't a Mary production.
No, it's that guy who did that other play. Remember that guy?
Welsh Nigel.
Yes, Welsh Nigel. I like him. I like listening to him. He has a
He has a
gorgeous
lovely voice, doesn't he? Yep.
Yes, it's so soothing.
So Ken is embarrassed to his core, explaining that they were rehearsing. Wendy leaves and Ken, rather uncharacteristically, tells Tracy that this is his house. It's up to him who he invites here, and if she doesn't like it, she can find some other place to live.
Right. She can back all the way off.
Right.
Wow.
Well, in Nina's roles, Ken meets up with Wendy, still fuming, but the two of them are enjoying their audition stuff, and who knows what may happen. But it seems that Evelyn has been convinced to read for the role of neighbour after all, which sounds like that's the part that Wendy was going for. I wasn't sure, because this isn't a famous play. This is a play that's been written
by Nigel.
Specifically for this by Nigel, the playwright.
Welsh Nigel.
Welsh Nigel.
With a lovely voice.
Evans, the playwright. On Wednesday, the auditionees for the play are in the Rovers waiting to hear from Welsh director Nigel, who has a part. The part of Cyril goes to Brian.
Off screen, in another storyline with a bum knee.
Lady Winterton is Wendy, much to Mary's chagrin.
Right.
She gets the lesser role that Evelyn was going for, and Evelyn and Ken get nothing.
Nothing.
Ken doesn't seem to care, even though is furious.
So Wendy has to declare her love for Brian.
Oh. Why am I...
Why is this funny
Why is
to
that
me?
funny? What are you picturing right now?
Brian's forehead.
Sniper's dream. So, the drama director Nigel, he goes to see Ken and apologises for not giving him a role, but he's worried that his play is shite and wonders if Ken thinks the same. Ken calls it original, and the director breaks down in tears and asks if Ken would like to script doctor it. Ken, surprisingly, would very much like to script doctor it.
Yes.
And gets a better stiffy than Tim at the mere thought of telling him what's wrong with his writing. Then Wendy comes round and Ken fills her in,
But not like that.
and then tells her about Nigel's visit and the offer that's right up his pretentious street. And it turns up it's right up Wendy's pretentious street too, and she asks Ken to edit her into a better role. Better than that, let's work on this together. And so that's what they do.
Aw.
And that's as far as we get with that.
That's
So
kinda
are they
cute.
going to ruin this? Do you think? Ken's going to ruin it, right?
Yeah, because he's going to try to make it too pretentious.
Rather than reading the script, he was away to read some classic novels to prepare himself for reading the script.
Right.
Wow.
Yikes.
We think we're pretentious. And we are.
We are.
But that's like uber pretentious, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
By saying uber pretentious, does that make me more pretentious?
I think it makes you less pretentious.
Does it really?
Yeah.
Even though there's an umlaut over the U?
I mean, Uber is now a car company that comes and picks you up and takes you places and takes money out of the hands of unionized taxi drivers. So, yeah.
See, that's you sounding more pretentious there. Well done.
Thank you.
That's not the first time you've done that.
And it won't be the last.
I don't know. Are we going?
I'm still mad about not getting to see Mary's one-woman play.
Yeah, one woman show
Yeah.
was definitely something I would have liked to have seen.
Yes.
This does sound like a terrible
Bring
play.
it back.
Based on the auditions that we've heard, it doesn't sound great. It's always funny though, watching actors trying to pretend that they
That they're
can't
not
act.
actors. Right. See, but only good actors can pretend that they're bad actors.
I thought Winnie did a good job.
Yeah.
I thought Ken sounded like he was acting when he said it,
Yeah.
which makes me wonder how good Brian must have been to have been better than that. You know what I mean? Ken sounded like he was doing it well.
Well,
Wendy
maybe-
didn't really.
Maybe Brian was already in pain. So
Yeah, maybe.
channeled the pain of his knee. Maybe that's where his knee got hurt, was the auditions.
Do you know, we're 3 storylines into this, and with the exception of Stephen, these are pretty poor storylines so far. Don't you think? I mean, I think this is a more a kind of roundup thing to say, but I think it was a pretty poor couple of episodes.
It feels like one of those weeks where we're just kind of filling in a few gaps, and
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
but we have other storylines to talk about.
Only a couple.
Yeah. And one of them is so much more exciting than this.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really have much more to say about Ken and Wendy auditioning.
So they are going to become like an official item again.
It would seem to be heading
And
that
Tracy
way.
will explode.
I don't know how much. In fact, I do know how much I want that. It's not. I don't want it at all. I'd prefer them just to be friends.
Yeah. Well, we know Claudia's not coming back. So,
Oh, she's not.
yeah. Rue McClellan this week said some rather
Rue
uncharitable...
McClellan from the Golden Girls.
Yes.
What did she have to say about it?
From-
Isn't she dead? From
the
beyond
grave.
the grave. Rula Lenska.
Right. Rue Lenska this week said some rather uncharitable things about how poorly actors on Coronation Street are paid. So I feel like she is burning bridges.
Do you know what? She probably doesn't give a fuck one way or the other.
No.
And why should she?
Well, no, because she's fabulous
She's
and
paid
she
her dues.
doesn't need it.
Right. And she's Rula fucking Lenska.
Seriously.
That's how she signs her autographs, I think.
Yes. Yes.
All right, look.
With the umlaut over the U in fucking.
Fucking. I think that's how you say that. She says I'm not pretentious. Our penultimate storyline is hopefully one of the good storylines then. All we are saying is give violence a chance. On Monday, Spider chases after Toy in the street, but in an unthreatening way. He apologises for the other day, and I had to think, what happened the other day? Oh, he said that he loved her and then ran away.
Right. And then when she tried to kiss him, did that thing.
And she has to agree that the situation right now is complicated enough without declarations of love and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
He says he's just worried about her, and this is why she's focusing on saving the planet, because she's worried too.
Right.
In Nina's roles, Nina and Asha have been roped into the protest by Toya, and the cafe is like a placard-making sweatshop.
I was really sad that Evelyn didn't get pulled in this time.
In comes Leanne, who thinks that she's walked onto the set of Blue Peter, especially when an elephant takes a shit on her shoe. Now that is a joke about Blue Peter.
Sure.
Leanne announces that the best way she can keep an eye on Toya is to join her on the protest, and Toya insists it's going to be peaceful. Later, Carla comes in and Nina, using her positive relationship that she has with Carla, I keep on forgetting about. She
Right.
and Carla
They're
are close
friends.
thanks to Roy.
Right.
Points out that all the nasty stuff that this Nadeem Atallah gets up to and his environmental record, and so Carla promises to go back to the factory and do some research, which is basically what Toya was demanding last week, but doing it in a far, far worse way
Right.
than Nina's doing.
Yes.
Nina's appealing to Carla's better
Right.
senses.
And she's bringing up, Nina is bringing up more specific things than just this guy is a terrible guy.
Right.
You know, she's talking about specific environmental things, bad environmental things he's doing, and specifying that he's not great with his employees and, you know, and stuff, which I think is something that would appeal more to Carla than the whole environmental thing.
Yep.
Because Carla has no children. So she doesn't care if the world ends in 20 years.
Right. Right.
Do you know what Stelly said to me the other day?
What?
She said that she really hopes the world ends so that she doesn't have to worry about getting a job and like getting married and stuff.
That's our kids looking on the bright side.
I think a lot of Gen Z are like that, though.
Right. The protest is underway as actors in non-speaking roles walk round in circles outside the garage in number 4. Spider joins Leanne, disappointed that Toya has shown up after all. At this, Nadeem, his car rolls up onto the street, tooting at the protesters to get the fuck out of his way, something that Toya describes as pure arrogance.
Did you find the protest convincing?
I found it as convincing as the football match that we're yet to talk about. Rabble, rabble, rabble. Rabble, rabble with my placard.
Right.
It says planet on it.
And words with crosses, with circles and crosses out.
I'm
on
against
them.
this.
Right.
I disapprove.
I am for the planet. Well, that's not
Rabble,
very
rabble.
specific against this particular guy.
Right. Griff has been on the beer and already seems like a bit of a loose cannon. In the factory, Carla has done her homework and now wants nothing to do with Nadeem Atallah making his journey and all this fuss absolutely pointless. Nadeem is pissed off and calls the police on the protesters, which Carla doesn't hear because she's been pulled off to speak to Sarah about something else.
Right.
Outside, Spider tries to get Toya to go back to the flat just as the police show up. But it's only PC Tinker though, and he asks Griff, "What's going on?" "Fuck off, pig," says Griff. PC Tinker threatens to start making arrests and then not letting people eat, but then force them to eat crusts that they picked up from the floor.
And Toya shouts, "Defund the police."
Carla comes out and she's trying to say, "Look, I'm not doing a deal with them after all."
Right, yeah, she's trying to quiet everybody down so that she can tell them that she's not doing a deal with this guy, so they'll all go home.
But then one particularly unruly protester throws a milkshake at Carla's foot. And somebody posted on Twitter, "If you're going to throw a milkshake at me, the next milkshake you'll be eating will be through a straw." And I thought it was pretty funny. I didn't deliver it very well. But.
No, I seem to remember that this is something that actually happens. That it's popular to throw milkshakes at Nazis.
At feet?
No, well, just at Nazis in general, typically Nazis' faces, because Nazis deserve to have milkshakes thrown at them a bit more than Carla does.
I think they deserve to have a little bit more than the milkshake thrown at them.
Right, yes.
Because all it does is make you think that Carla's milkshake brings all the boys to the yard. That's what it makes me think about. And her feet. And then a particular fetish involving feet and milkshakes.
All right, Tarantino, settle down over there.
Oof. Ooh.
God, first we bring up Sarah's leather skirt and then you say I'm bad for wanting to spit on Chris Pine.
I'm a second away from going off here.
Exactly like that.
So, somebody throws a milkshake at Carla's foot and she's like, "Oh, I'm going to send you the dry cleaning bill for my foot." Which is the trigger for Griff to throw his beer bottle at PC Tinker's head. It's a direct hit and Tinker goes down like a sack of spuds. Griff is dragged away by the cops and they seem to be making a beeline for Toya when Spider jumps in the way and pushes the copper, saying, "What are you going to do? You going to arrest me?" So he gets lifted instead, allowing Leanne to lead Toya away. Toya looking utterly lost throughout most of this. She's like a rabbit in the headlights sort of thing.
Like she's never been to a protest before.
Right. Yeah, so she just doesn't seem like she's got a clue what's going on. But if you listen carefully during this scene, you can pick up Stephen booting fuck out of a blue bin in the distance.
Now, the build-up to this...
Rabble, rabble, rabble.
The build-up to this, the articles, the spoiler articles...
I'm against this.
For this whole protest thing.
Oh, not more of this stuff.
Had me expecting death. Had me expecting blood on the streets.
Stormtroopers.
Had me expecting Nadeem to run somebody over with his car.
Yeah.
You know?
Not toot his horn politely.
Right, yeah. It's like...
Oh, the arrogance.
Massive protest drama on, on Coronation Street coming up. And this was... The fight we witnessed tonight was more violent and dramatic.
The fight?
The fight that you and I witnessed.
Oh, yes. Right. That was actually
in
pretty
real
violent.
life was much more crazy and violent. And glass was thrown in real life tonight in front of us.
I didn't see that.
Yeah. She threw a glass down. She smashed it on the floor, not on a person. But still, that was more dramatic than this protest scene which
Rabble.
was built up as being like this really big, intense thing. And I get it. They still don't want people too close together. But it's outside. And you could at least make the placards be in direct reference to this Nadeem dude.
What got me was Tracy pushing her way through the protest to go and speak to Tyrone and Aaron on the other
Right.
side of it.
Yeah, and Tyrone saying, you know, I used to think that all this climate change stuff was ridiculous, but then I did a project with my daughter, and now I think about her future. And it reminded me of Steve white-splaining
Oh, right.
racism
To Tim.
to Tim.
It's always Tim that gets something explained to him, isn't it?
Well, this time it was Tyrone to Aaron, but still, it was just a lot of the dialogue of people around the protest,
Rabble.
not the actual protesters, but like stuff like the whole Tyrone thing and some of the other talk, because people are complaining about it in the Rovers too. Oh, the loud people outside and stuff. It seems like Evelyn is complaining too at one point, I seem to recall. And let's remember, Evelyn chained herself to a bulldozer a couple of years ago.
If it was super gluing yourself to the road, she'd be doing it.
I was very disappointed in her. I don't know. It was kind of a letdown.
Yeah.
Because it was talked up so much. And this is why I'm afraid of things like the volume wall.
Right.
It's because so much stuff gets talked up like, oh, this is going to be really cool. And then it's not.
Yeah. The protest reminded me a lot of non-playable characters in Grand Theft Auto. Like pedestrians just wandering around in circles. And some of them were just like leaning against Sally's house. Not doing a single thing.
Right. Just holding a sign up.
That said, I'm against this.
Right.
Or whatever.
Yeah. What are you against, sir? What are you against?
Right here and now, this. Meanwhile, Carla is tending to PC Tinker's injuries, threatening to get Beth involved. Fuck that, says PC Tinker. A cab, shouts Beth from an open window. Back at the bistro, Toya is astounded at Spider's hypocrisy. He claims it's a peaceful protest, but then he gets lifted for pushing a copper. You stupid cow, says Leanne. Spider only got arrested to save you. Roll, says Toya.
Now, you mentioned a theory last week.
And nothing that we've seen this week dispels that theory.
No, because it seemed very obvious that he was desperately trying to get arrested, which is totally something that an undercover cop would do in a situation like this.
Not only that, but before it, right before the police arrive, he's trying to get rid of her.
Right.
And then the police arrive immediately afterwards.
Right.
So it's like he knows that the police are about to arrive here.
Right.
And he's trying to get her away. This is adding up.
Yay.
So later she meets Spider in the community garden. He's been let off with a caution, and again that's a bit of a flag for that.
Right,
So he's
yeah.
been let off. He's pushed. He arguably assaulted a police officer.
Right.
But people get let off with a caution all the time on Coronation Street. Otherwise, they'd all be in jail.
That's true. It would be an empty street with tumbleweeds.
Yeah, and we'd be talking about that. Sometimes it feels like that is what we're talking about. She asks him to come back to the flat for a chat. Back there, she brings up his declaration of love and says that she loves him too and she wants to be with him. Yeah, about that, says Spider. The thing is, I'm married.
He's not married.
He explains that he's not happily married though, but she's fuming that he shagged her while he was hitched to someone else. And after all the stuff that she told him about Imran, she throws him out and then throws papers all over Leanne and Nick's lovely newly decorated, tidy flat.
Now, in the same episode, like 20 minutes beforehand, she had agreed with him that it wasn't the right time and that she needed to focus on the trial.
Right.
And,
But the fact that he threw himself in front of the train, she's so desperate. And she's not behaving like herself.
No.
On Wednesday at the community centre, Griff explains to Toya that it wasn't him who threw the bottle. Oh, it was you, though.
Yeah. Yeah, this is weird.
And he was standing right next to her when he did it.
Yeah.
And she didn't notice it.
Yeah.
He says it was an unnamed extra. Toya is more concerned about Spider being married and doesn't really seem to care. And then there's a line of characters waiting patiently to interact with these two. Carla calls Griff a thug and a waste of space. Spider tries the Jedi mind trick to pretend that everything's okay between him and Toya, but she's having none of it. In the cafe, Griff is surprised to learn that Spider is married. So again, it feels like he's just told her that he's married to stop this from happening because this
because
is
he's
unethical.
an undercover cop, yeah.
Not that cops haven't been known to kind of play a little bit
On
fast
this
and loose
show?
with that sort of thing.
All the time.
Spider asks if he's coming, if Griff is coming to the meeting tonight, but he has an appointment with Toya, which puts Spider's nose out of joint. At the counter, Griff shares some of his conspiracy theories with Nina and Asha. He's a tit. But back home, Nina and Asha are talking more conspiracy theories. Asha seems to be a bit of a flat earther and denies that we've been to the moon. The pair of them reckon that Griff, though, isn't exactly one to be trusted. But Peter and Toya are in the Rovers now, and Peter is a massive fan of Griff.
Was Peter's liver donor a conspiracy theorist?
Peter is telling Griff about his liver and Thorn, which Griff blames on the lizard people and how 9/11 was an inside job. Carla comes in.
No, because he's not that kind of. He's more of a leftist conspiracy theorist than a right conspiracy theorist.
Meh. Carla comes in and is sick to see Peter chatting with that scumbag, but Peter sticks his guns about how Griff is brand new, and when presented with a choice about having dinner with his wife or circle jerking with Griff, Peter opts for a third option. He's off home. And Carla's a little bit upset about this.
Yes.
Leanne and Carla bump into each other outside, Carla warning Leanne about the company that Toya's keeping. Leanne thinks she means Spider, but Carla points out that it's Griff that she's talking about, which makes Leanne far more worried. So back home, Leanne brings the subject up with Toya, but she has a complete meltdown about it, explains how Spider betrayed her trust by being married, and she grabs a purse and storms out. Anything for a minute's peace. That's as far as we get with that up to Wednesday.
What do you think?
Well, I'm thinking that I'm right about Spider being a cop.
Yeah, I think he's undercover.
And I think they are trying to bring down this Griff character. And I think he is trying to weasel his way in with Toya and is going to presumably have some impact on her trial that's coming up, that I think was quoted this week as being in a couple of weeks or in a few weeks. So it's not an immediate thing again. And I'm just worried, I was saying this to Script Scene as well on the Twitter, that they've left this a little bit too long, I think, because nobody really cares about it anymore, that she's potentially up for murder.
They've been doing this, though, because let us remember the gap of time between when we first found out that Hope was getting messages from some Mad Dog person, and then so much time had passed that I had assumed that I had missed it on the first week that Spider showed up when I didn't watch.
Right.
I was like, well, that must have gotten resolved at that time. But no, it hadn't, because it's still going on. But we haven't heard anything about it forever. I don't know. Do you think the show just has too many irons in the fire at the moment?
Feels like there's an awful lot, and I assume that some of them are going to come and maybe cross over with each other. That they like doing that when we're heading for big weeks. That they have storylines that are kind of in conjunction with each other that end up being part of the whole one storyline. And there's certainly a lot of things that are going on round about the same time, because it's been a little difficult to pick out some of the individual stories as to where's this thread at now, because this thread kind of becomes a little bit of a different thread, and it's all a little over the place. But it just seems like that Toya in particular has been given a bit of a bum steer here, because it seemed that she was at the point of Imran's death this was going to be the big storyline of the summer, was her proving her innocence or otherwise, or some big trial or whatever,
proving her guilty, and
but
then it just petered out.
It's been nothing, and if it wasn't for the occasional remark about her trial, you'd kind of forget that it was even going on,
and that does a disservice to Imran's memory,
and if and his wife fronts, and his
sexy boxer briefs,
and if Toya was just to keep her nose clean for a couple of months, then all this would just blow over and everyone would have forgotten about it.
Right.
It just feels like it's been treated really oddly.
Yeah.
For a big character like Toya to get an opening for a big storyline and then for nothing really to happen about it.
Let's remember that Robert is still unburied.
Yeah, I suppose.
And that Imran died without ever finding out what happened to his sister.
Peter he's just a walking complaint at the moment. It's anybody who will listen to him about his liver and thorn.
Right,
and
yeah.
Still going on about that.
Right,
like,
it's because
months later.
It's because Griff is indignant on his behalf about the whole thorn thing that he just falls in love with Griff. Mm-hmm. That's the only reason.
It's somebody new to complain to about
right,
it.
yeah, and somebody who's sympathetic.
For now.
Right.
Because he's heard the story for the first time.
Right.
Later on that night, maybe not so much.
Well, Griff seems like the kind of guy who repeats things over and over and over again, too. So.
Oh, yeah, he's got his script.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
he's making the pitch to everyone that he's talking to.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, well.
And don't get me wrong. Some of the stuff Griff says, which oddly Nina poo-poos about, like, there only being a handful of people that control most of the wealth and
Yeah,
stuff.
and the media.
That's true. There is only a handful of people who control the media.
Yeah, and you look at the UK media, the people who own the main newspapers don't live in the UK but are controlling the politics of it and how people think. And that's not...
I was really surprised that Nina poo-pooed that.
Yeah, I don't think that's a conspiracy. I think
No,
that's
that's the truth.
Demonstrable fact.
What,
Right.
what are we, whose side are you on, ITV?
Well, let's move on to our final storyline of the night. And I didn't think I was going to have to write these words again, but this storyline is Tim's Boaby.
Is it?
Yeah,
Is it? You get to use your hospital thingy, though, tonight.
I do.
So you must be very happy about that,
Quite
you and
excited.
your cactus.
Quite excited about that. On Monday, Jenny is organising a five-a-side football match between the Rovers and the Flying Horse, and she's roping heart attack survivor Tim into a meeting in the pub later to
The
discuss.
Flying Horse, who will soon be sued out of existence by ExxonMobil for stealing their logo.
That's a reach.
It's the exact same style of Pegasus.
Mm-hmm.
Same color, same
for
pose.
a gas company that doesn't exist in the UK. Yeah, I think they're on safe ground.
No, Esso. Isn't Esso?
They don't have that logo and they have a lion.
Yeah. Same company, though.
Michael and James come along, and it sounds like James's position on the Wethy County team is under threat from a bright new thing. It was quite funny though, because on
But
Monday,
not Corrie.
Jenny had a couple of storylines. She had her fretting about getting found out,
Right.
and her guilt about snogging Stephen, and then in this completely concurrent but separate thread, she was trying to organise a five-a-side match.
Right, yeah. And none of the people on her five-a-side team work at the Rovers.
In the pub, Jenny tries to explain how everyone can't be a striker. It's co-ed, so Amy and Shona are involved, with Dev, Tim and Brian.
None of whom work at the Rovers.
Brian explains that some of the past rivalries between the two pubs mean that no one is going to be mistaking this for a friendly. Jenny is struggling to control the egos and so asks James if he wouldn't mind being the team's coach. James says he'll think about it, but really it's been so long since he's had a storyline, he absolutely jumps at the chance.
Yes.
Later, James has made the controversial decision to make Amy the striker, as she's the only one not currently drunk, or over 40, or pregnant. Dev,
Or still suffering from a brain injury.
Dev is devastated. Jenny is stressed out of her tits about this, calling it herding cats, so Daisy suggests offering some kind of prize or incentive if they win. Not that kind of incentive, and Jenny seems to like the sound of it either way. Meanwhile, while all this is going on, at Streetcars, Tim is reading the paper getting upset about someone who wants to ban bees. Then in comes Trina, Tim's sex therapist, so Tim hides behind his paper and pretends to be invisible when Peter gives him the job to take her to wherever she wants to go. When she goes outside to wait, Peter demands to know what that was all about, so Tim confesses that was his sex therapist, and when Peter is shocked because he thought Tim and Sally were fucking like 18-year-olds up and down number 4 and the whole house would light up under a black light like a Christmas tree.
It makes you wonder if they keep the shades open occasionally when they're going to town, because it seems like everybody knows.
Tim reluctantly admits that he's impotent. But he finds a sympathetic ear in Peter, who is happy to find common ground with his chum, and explains one of the downsides of being a raging alcoholic is trouble in the trouser department.
Yes.
Tim is regretting saying anything and asks Peter to keep quiet about it, which Peter agrees to do after offering his listening services if required, and maybe a spot of mutual masturbation to lighten the mood. Who knows?
Now, I thought Tim was doing better because he realized why he was having the problem.
That's exactly what I thought. It's like, why
So
are we
why
coming
are we
back
coming
to this?
back to this?
We've done
You're
this
not
enough.
impotent anymore. We figured it out. You can get it up now.
And I thought you had.
Yeah. Sally seemed quite happy. I mean, I can understand why they might still be going to the sex therapist, because it's not really about the sex. It's about
Right.
the relationship.
And his fear of death.
Right. Yeah. I don't
But I was like,
understand
why are
why
we-
we're bringing this up again. You know, what's going on here? Is this just an excuse for Peter to talk about himself some more?
Despite his promises, Peter is quite loud in the pub, talking to Tim about stuff Tim doesn't want to be talked about.
Right.
Which makes me think it's just a matter of time before Peter takes an advert out in the Weather Gazette. On Wednesday, Jenny has bought the tiniest trophy. It's the
It's so
Newton
cute.
and Ridley Challenge Cup. And apparently Jenny hasn't even dipped into her purse for the tenner it would have costed. This is sponsored. It's inspiration in brass. Outside, the team are training. Well, Amy's training. Everyone else looks on day release from the care home. I don't really play football, says Peter, answering nobody's question. James mentions a trophy to the team and Dev is suddenly very interested. He also wants a medal. But then Brian pulls a muscle in his knee and the team is suddenly a man down. Dev asks James to play, but he can't because he's a professional footballer and he can't get injured in this stupid bounce game.
Right. It isn't that when Peter says, "Don't look at me, I don't play football."
He says it twice, and he says it in this next scene as well, I think.
Ah.
In the Rovers, Dev loves the look of the tiny trophy.
He does.
Peter again says that he'd love to play, but he can't. And again, nobody asks you, Peter. And besides, Jenny has convinced Chesney to join in.
Yet another person who doesn't work at the Rovers. But at least his wife does.
Dev gives
Or
us...
fiance, because they're still not married. Remember that? Remember when they got engaged? Like 4 years ago?
Dev gives a speech for the team about rising to the occasion, standing proud and erect in the face of a stiff challenge, and then spunking all over the tits of the opposition. Tim thinks this is a dig at him, so he storms out, calling Dev a twat on the way. And Peter. Ed and Michael are heading off to the game, and Aggie should be joining them, but sees a sorry-looking Tim sitting on the pavement on the way. So she lets her family go ahead, and she asks Tim back to hers. With Tim gone, Jenny insists that James plays the cover. James knows that he has responsibilities to the team, but he caves. Back at Aggie's, she wonders if Tim has been oversensitive maybe during the team talk, but is proud that he spoke to Peter in the first place. There's a five-a-side set for some reason in Coronation Street, and that's where the Rovers are playing the Flying Horse. I was kind of hoping we wouldn't see any of the game and they would just wander in afterwards and back into the pub pretending to be out of breath and just explain what happened.
Right, but they couldn't do that because of what happens next.
Right. The game starts and the Rovers take a knee, allowing the Flying Horse to score the first goal, and Dev gets booked for being Asian.
So,
I wasn't happy about this. And I was... Whichever way my bread is buttered, I'm unhappy about it. If I'm somebody who appreciates the taking the knee gesture, I'm feeling that they're taking the piss out of it a little bit.
they are.
And if I'm against the taking the knee thing, I'm thinking stupid woke Corrie doing the taking the knee thing. So I think they're the worst of both worlds here.
Right, because you don't take the knee at the beginning of the game when game is in play.
No.
You take the knee during the playing of the national anthem. Or
Well, not in soccer, they don't.
right, or in the beginning
There's
when they're
a 5 second
right.
before the game starts.
Yeah, and I was really confused. I was like, does taking the knee mean something else in the UK? Is this our taking the knee, Or is this some sort of, ancient tradition in
No.
soccer? Or because, they're all upset. They're like, we took the knee. And the ref is like, well, you're supposed to tell me first. And it's like, I don't understand what's going on here. But yeah, now that I understand that it's our, what?
It's not yours.
I say our because and I don't mean that because it's very much not mine.
No.
Although white people.
You mean it's the same. It's the same one. It's the same stand against
right,
racism.
Yes, it does kind of feel like taking the piss out of the actual thing because it's kind of played for comedy.
Yeah, the other team just goes ahead and scores a goal.
Yeah.
But I don't think at any point anyone who was involved in this was concerned that this isn't realistic. I don't think anyone was concerned about that.
Because it's not.
Because this is just the worst game of football, I think, has been committed to film.
Right, yeah, but still, this is like a real problem that exists in the world.
Right.
So maybe let's not make a joke out of it.
Later, Tim has had 7 missed calls from Peter. He admits to feeling better after after telling Peter about his problems, but now he's let them down by dropping out of the team. Aggie says something about toxic masculinity, but Tim's not listening. Instead, he's looking longingly at Aggie, saying that she says the nicest things, and instead of going to the game together, they decide to stay at home and make a cake. Back at the football, more football's happening, and the Rovers go 3-2 up when Chesney seems to score. And it's the strangest goal because at this point, they're not even showing the ball.
No.
But Chesney scores, Dev pulls his shirt over his head.
Right.
Chesney kisses Dev's belly.
Right. And leaps, first he leaps into his arms. And then Dev pulls the shirt over his head and he does he kiss it or does he blow raspberries on it? I don't know. Either way, this is the weirdest shit I've ever seen on television in my life. And I watch a lot of weird shit.
Yes, you do. And that puts the Rovers 3-2 up when James collapses face first onto the pitch, seemingly dead by how fucking cringe this all is.
Yeah. And just boom. Just boom. No clutching at the chest. No warning. Nothing. Just boom. I have seen this happen in real life.
Well, then you'll have seen it happening exactly like this to Christian Eriksen.
Right. Yeah. A friend of mine in high school, Reed, he was a basketball player, and this happened to him, and was absolutely terrifying to see. This and it's something that seems to be happening a lot more often lately for some reason, that young people are having heart attacks and strokes at a higher rate for some reason. Oh, who could ever know why in 2022 more people are having heart attacks and strokes? But never mind. I was really shocked and kind of impressed by how they didn't make it overly.
It was a shocking moment. I mean,
it was
I
a
think
shocking moment.
We can joke that he done it because he was bored about the
Right.
storyline or whatever, but the way that he went down and the way that he was just glazed and glassy-eyed
And dead.
and looking very, very, very dead.
Right.
Yeah.
Just
Was
like that.
And it was exactly how that happened at the Euros with Christian Eriksen. That somebody took a throw in, they threw it to him, it kind of bounced off him.
Right.
And then he took a couple of steps and just fell
Down.
over. And you know immediately that something's
Very wrong.
terribly, terribly wrong. So it was very reminiscent of that. And I think they actually did it pretty well.
Yes, absolutely. Because we've seen people have heart attacks before on the show, and
It's a comedy heart attack. It's
it's
a 1920s silent movie
I'm coming,
heart attack.
Wheezy.
Right.
Sort of thing. So I was really impressed by this, and I think the actor has a lot to his credit for that, for how he was able to do that so well.
Michael does CPR while Chesney runs away looking for a defibrillator or something. Ed tries to call Aggie, but she and Tim are making cake and talking about his erections, so she doesn't hear his call.
And making jokes about baking powder, which she's adding far too much of.
The ambulance crew arrive and zap James alive again, and he's whisked off to hospital while Michael waits for Aggie, who's still at home, but he's expecting Aggie to turn up at any minute at the game, but
Right.
he ends up having to run home to get Aggie, and the two of them rush off to the hospital. And at hospital, it's confirmed that James was dead for 5 minutes, but his condition has improved since then,
Oofed.
and they're running more tests. Ed thinks about calling Danny, oddly, not Dee Dee.
No, well, because Danny is his boyfriend.
Are they still?
Yes.
We haven't seen Danny in the longest time.
That's because he moved to that London, remember?
Did he move? I thought they were...
He did. He moved to that London.
Well, I thought then they split up.
They agreed to do the long distance thing. It's nice that the show remembers that James has a boyfriend named Danny.
But not a sister named Dee Dee. Michael is congratulated by Ed for saving James's life, and Aggie is berated for not answering her phone. Peter and Tim catch up at the cab office and make up after Tim's reaction. The two of them haven't had troubles to find in this week's episodes and compare notes, agreeing that bitches be crazy. Oh, and did you hear about James? So Tim rushes off to the hospital to see Aggie and asks after him. He blames himself and his Boaby for this happening. Aggie starts to cry, worried that she's let down her family, and she quickly leaves. And it's her friend, Dr. Hanley, who's looking after James.
Yay!
James just wants to get home and get back to training. Ed points out that James is a famous footballer. Dr. Hanley sucks a thoughtful tooth, telling James that he might never play the game ever again, and judging how he got on against a pub team earlier on, that's probably a good thing. And that's how we end this week's episodes.
And James, for some reason, is able to make complete sentences with his mouth, even though he was dead for 5 minutes.
Yeah. Which again was, I think, they're leaning heavily on the Christian Eriksen story.
Yeah. That actor playing the cardiologist, he must be just like, I'm so glad that they keep giving people heart problems on this show.
But this time it's real heart problems.
Well, Tim's was real too.
Oh, no, I was thinking more Curtis.
Well, he took care of Tim and Curtis.
This is his third
This
heart.
is his third heart. This is the third heart storyline.
Now, does that tell you that it's good that we have continuity and who's the heart specialist at Wendy County? Oh, and I forgot to hit my... that we have continuity.
After I mentioned
I know.
it, then you completely forgot about it.
I got so caught up in the excitement of the storyline that we have continuity of the cardiologist at Wendy
Right,
General.
yes.
Or does it suggest that we have too many heart storylines?
I bet he's really pissed that Imran died so quickly from his heart attack.
Oh yeah, he had
Because
the
let's
heart
remember,
attack as well,
Imran
right?
had a heart attack as well.
Yeah.
And didn't Johnny have some problems with his heart as well as his MS before he died by drowning?
Probably. And we shouldn't be laughing. Poor Johnny. Who does eat chili con carne without rice, though?
I do.
Well,
And millions of Mexicans.
well, that is how we end this week's episodes. Yeah, I mean, the football storyline was just dreadful. But James nearly dying did make it a bit better.
Right. And not because we hate James, because we love James and we want him to have more storylines. But
Yeah.
I love James
There
and
we
want
go.
him to have more storylines because this is the Baileys have been in the show for what, 5 years now?
No. Because we've only been doing this for 4.
No, we've been doing it for more than 4.
Nope.
Because we were just talking about the whole Sally thing in 2019.
We started it in 2018,
Right, that's
which
not
is 4 years ago.
no.
Yes. Yes, Helen, 2022 minus 2018 is 4.
No, 19, 20, 21, 22, that's 4. 19 to 22.
Yeah, you don't suddenly count the first one as being 1. You weren't 1 year old when you were born, Helen. You were 0.
That's what you think. You weren't there. But anyway, they've been on the show for a while
Why aren't
now.
you ashamed that you can't do this?
They've been on the show for a while now, and this is James's second storyline. Because he had the I'm not gay storyline.
Oh, and they had the racist.
He
police
kind of had a
officer story.
racism storyline, but that racism storyline was kind of for all the Baileys. It was an equal opportunity racism
And he's
storyline.
had his Danny storyline.
And he had I'm not gay, but I'm going to date Danny storyline.
He hasn't had an awful lot to do.
No. So I'm glad I'm wondering, and I mentioned this to you earlier, I'm wondering if they're realizing that they can't really do too much with a character
footballer.
who's a footballer because they can't really afford to have scenes shot at the football stadium.
Well, it's not just that. They can't have them in scenes at the pub and at the kebab shop and everywhere that the characters seem to end up just sitting around vegetating. He has to be...
He's in training and he's not drinking and he's not eating kebabs.
Right, so there's not an awful lot of storylines on the go for characters that are like that.
And so, yeah, they would have to not only fork out the money for to rent out a football stadium, because they're not going to build a football stadium.
Well, and they've kind of made a rod for their own back by having the team playing green. So the only ground that's nearby that playing green, I think, is Plymouth, which is the other side of the country.
Right. They could always cover up the other colors.
Well, if they've got this big volume wall, who knows what they could do? Right.
But they would also need to hire people on a more regular basis to play the rest of the team.
But nobody's interested. This isn't a football soap opera. So
right. Well, it's also not necessarily a knicker factory soap opera or a pub soap opera or a...
It is a pub soap. It's absolutely a pub soap opera.
All right. Well, I'll give you that. Or a cardiologist, or doctor. It's not a medical one either. Yet people work in the hospital. It's possible to show people who live on the street at their careers. I think this is one of the reasons why we don't get to see Billy actually do his job very often, because then we'd have to either get all of these people on the street who don't seem to care about religion to start going to church and filling in them pews, or they'd have to hire enough extras to make a believable congregation for him instead of him just talking about people in his congregation off camera.
I think that's why they got him kind of out of the vicarian game and into the archdeaconing game.
But even
then... It's more about in the community doing things where he can just say that he's away doing some church stuff. And that's enough. Enough of an explanation. But the thing is that they don't want him being a footballer. They dropped a little hint at the start of this week when they said that his place is perhaps getting under threat by the next young new thing.
Right, but they say that sort of thing all the time, and they still have to have older players on the team.
Yeah, maybe ones that don't have heart attacks though, Helen.
Right. But he hadn't had a heart attack yet. He was just synchronized walking with his brother across the street.
Right, but I don't know why this is so difficult. At the start, they have this bit where it seems that his place is under threat. Now he has a heart attack.
Right.
So where does that put him now? Well, it kind of puts him not on the team anymore.
But again, his place was under threat before with the whole racism thing. Remember that?
Yeah,
where it was like, we're going to fire you because we're racist. Or we don't want to lose these white guys. We don't want to offend the white guys, so we may fire you.
Yeah, I think this affects his footballing ability a little bit more than
absolutely
than claims of racism.
Absolutely. My point is more they've hinted at this before, and I'm still feeling so let down by that protest that I just don't trust them with anything.
Well, I don't see him continuing as a footballer after this. It's going to be very difficult for him to recover from this.
No, I expect a deep depression and lashing out and
I don't know
alcoholism.
I don't know if that's the storyline that we had in mind for him. I don't know what storyline we had in mind for him, but I don't think it was going to be quite that. And we never found out who won the football match.
Isn't it whoever was winning at the time that James has a heart attack on the pitch?
I don't know, are those your rules or
those
the
are my
rules? Well, then the Rovers win 3-2.
Yes.
3-2 and one heart attack.
Right. Who gets the trophy, though?
Dev. Dev's heart
Dev and his belly.
And his kissable belly, apparently.
Remember when Dev got really mad that Amy scored a point?
They're called goals.
I know that, but it's the same thing.
Don't call it a point then.
They get a point for making a goal. The score goes up.
Those are your rules?
Yes.
I think we should stick to the arithmetic here.
But anyway, it's just, I don't know. I think it is an interesting and compelling story, and I'm glad for the Baileys as a family to get another interesting storyline. I think I am starting to get nervous about Aggie and Tim's friendship.
Yeah, I think that's
This
not,
week.
I think that's not without concern.
The fact that she lied to her family about why she couldn't come with them at that moment. And she's kind of caught in that lie now. Because what is she going to say? When they say, why didn't you pick up your phone? Why didn't you come? Why did it take so long for us to get a hold of you? She can't really say, I was baking a cake with Tim. Or talking to Tim about his penis problems.
Well, no.
That ship has sailed. If she had said from the very beginning to Ed, you know, I'm concerned about Tim and I'm a nurse, and so I've been giving him some advice and stuff, I don't think Ed would have cared.
No.
But I think at this point, especially since this friendship kept her from getting to James sooner, I think Ed will care.
Yeah.
And because she boldly lied to him.
Yeah, because now Tim's lying about who he's getting advice and who he's getting books from, and now she's lying about giving him advice. It's like the whole thing is now completely surrounded by lies.
Right. And it didn't need to be because it's just a friendship.
Right.
This seems to be setting up something more than a friendship.
I don't see Aggie going for that at all, though.
No, I don't either.
And honestly, I don't see Tim going for that either.
No, I don't either. Especially since we thought that this was...
This was dealt with.
Right. Yeah, and maybe he still has problems occasionally with it, but if he's aware of the problem, that it's something that he's managing. So it shouldn't be this big of a problem now.
No. Dev was a complete asshole all the way through that, though. The way that he was berating people
Such a dick.
and wanting VAR involved, and just
Especially the way
awful.
he was pissed about Amy becoming striker and Amy scoring goals.
and he was shouting at James as well to track the man or whatever it
Right,
was. I was
yeah.
like, you need to wind your neck in, Dev.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think it's obviously supposed to be funny, but
It wasn't.
It wasn't. It was just
It
kind of
wasn't.
annoying.
Just like the whole knee thing wasn't funny.
Anyway, that was the week that was Coronation Street. What was your moment of this abridged week?
James's heart attack.
Yeah, I think it probably was.
Yeah.
I don't think there was. It was either that or Tinker Tink a bottle to the head. It was either.
We didn't really talk about Jenny's weird turn there. What do you think is up with that?
Oh, she just didn't want Leo to be anywhere near Stephen.
No, because she actually like grasps her belly and gets all dizzy. And
Yeah, I thought that was pretend.
I don't think so.
Well, she wanted to stop Leo from tracking down Stephen and asking him questions because Stephen had warned her not to let this happen, and so she faked a little dizzy turn, and he therefore stayed with her. I
Okay.
think that's pretty much what happened there.
No, I was thinking.
Anyway, that wasn't the moment of the week.
No. James is our
Yeah, I think that's probably our
Moment of the week.
moment of the week.
boring moment of the week. We'll see if
Ken. Just Ken.
Ken's pomposity.
Ken reading classic novels to rewrite Welsh Nigel's play.
Boring moment. Was it boring?
It was boring and pretentious.
It's not pretentious moment of the week, though.
Yes, but
Because let's face it, we'd win that every week.
pretension can be boring when it involves Ken reading classic novels in order to rewrite
You know what? Fair
Welsh
enough.
Nigel's play.
Boring moment of the week.
The boring moment of the week.
All right, let's wrap this one up. It hasn't taken us much less time at all. Who'd have thunk it? If you would like to rewrite this podcast, then get in touch with us. We're the talk of the street at gmail.com. We're at Porricodpast. Listen to me, eh? I've only been doing this 220 times. And we're at Corrie Podcast on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. You can shout me and Hell on the coffee by heading to ko-fi.com. That's ko-fi.com/the talk of the street. Check out the clicky section of voggle.co.uk for links to a merch store and YouTube channel. And if you're so inclined, please leave a rating and a review on the iTunes or your podcast provider of choice.
Do you think if somebody did come and rewrite our podcast for us, would they add more sexual innuendo or would they take out sexual innuendo?
I think they would put it in and then they would take it out. Do you see what I did there?
Yes.
Thanks for making it to the end of another episode. We'll be back next week with more
Talk of the street.
The Talk of the Street.
Bye.
Cheerio.